ZentroVerted gamer here, getting ready to kick off this 2007-2008 season with the Memphis Tigers. It is Tiger Madness. That is the midnight, well, not all teams do it at midnight, but that is the event that kicks off the season officially for most programs. There's also a chance for the fans and the student body to get a first look at the roster that the team is putting out for the season and what's possible. Now, of course, you know, this season, 2007-2008, Memphis was a favorite to most definitely make it to the Final Four, but win a national championship under John Calipari. No, we all know how that ended. They were so close. If only they hit those free throws. But we'll talk about that in another video. Actually, the vid explaining what this series is going to be about and what direction we want to take the program and exactly what we're doing with Memphis and 2K8 will be dropping tomorrow, so look out for that. But on this first day, I thought we'd get right on into it.
You know, when they show up, they show out, and they shut it down every single time. Please make some noise. Give it up for your Palm Squad and Ambush crew.
Oh my, baby, let me love you down. There's so many ways to love ya. Got me like, oh my God, I'm so in love. I found you finally. You make me wanna say, oh, 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 oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Fell in love with Shawty when I seen her on the dance floor. She was dancing sexy, pop, pop, popping, dropping, dropping low. Pop, pop, popping, dropping, dropping low. Pop, pop, popping, dropping, dropping low. Pop, 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 popping, dropping, dropping low. I did it again, so I'm gonna let go. Oh my God.
Let's hear it for the Memphis Palm Squad and Ambush crew. All right, fans, the Memphis basketball teams are about to take the court.
All right, so the Tiger Madness or the kickoff, the preseason kickoff game doesn't have commentary from the 2K commenters for obvious reasons, but like all of the games going forward, I definitely play with the commentary on because that's how I play 2K. And part of this series is like showing the reasons why I like this game. I know a lot of people might not be a fan of the commentary, but I thought for its time, like back then, it was actually pretty good. And I actually don't care for all of the chit chatter for commentary. I actually just like when commenters do commentary on the actual game instead of like having conversations about everything else and not commenting on the game. And that's what I like about the commentary in this game is pretty much just focused on what's happening on the basketball court. So that's just a heads up. I won't be doing the commentary. Like, yeah, I'm not a commentator. So I'm not even going to attempt to do that. That would just take way too long to get videos out. So I just use the commentary that's already uploaded in the game. It just seemed easier, so I could focus on doing everything else that's fun in 2K8. But yeah, these are the rosters from 2007-2008. Of course, you know, you got freshman Derrick Rose, the the player for Memphis. It's probably kind of what put Memphis on the map. I know they were kind of good before he got there. They had made it to a couple Elite Eights, and the program was definitely trending in the right direction. But when Derrick Rose got there, that's like when all of the hoopla. Because I mean, it was already a team that was favored to make it to the Final Four, and then Derrick Rose when it chose to go there too, and it kind of elevated it. Like everybody was expecting them to make to the national title game and possibly win a national title, and they almost did. But this team is really freaking good, and there's a lot of good teams in this season. Like that, the 2007-2008 rosters were really good. Like that was one of the best college basketball seasons men's in a while. And I say men's because I'm actually a really big fan of women's college basketball. Like I've always been, because for one of the things I really like about women's college basketball is they stay for 4 years. So coaches actually get to build a team with their recruits, and you get to see those recruits develop from freshmen to seniors. And man, I just really don't like about men's college basketball is that you don't get to see some of those really good basketball players develop into the best college versions of themselves because they leave early. And then they go sit on the bench in the NBA and don't play. Only a select few actually should leave after their first year because they're just that good. But I think it's way too many players leaving after just 1 year in college just to go sit on the bench in the NBA. But I get it. It's hard to pass up that money. I mean, they may be sitting on the bench, but they're sitting on the bench making hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. So I know that's hard to pass up. And so one of the things that I love to do in my coaching modes on 2K8 is turn players leaving early off. And I got that idea specifically from watching women's college basketball. So every career mode I've ever run, I've always had that off. So the players I recruit and all of the players from all of the other teams, the CPU control, the recruits stay, players stay for 4 seasons, 5 if you use a red shirt. So you get to see some really dope teams form, develop, get better, and also because there's less scholarships available because there's less roster space, a lot of the mid-majors and major conferences start to get really strong because those good recruits get spread out amongst all the conferences instead of just getting hoarded at certain specific schools. And that just turns the career mode into a whole nother animal. Like the teams that the CPU puts together as well, and having to battle not just power conferences teams but also major conference teams. The Atlantic 10 gets really good in this. West Coast Conference gets really good, just to name a few. But it's usually I named the Atlantic 10 because every career mode that I've done, and you can play like 40 seasons before they make you retire. Every one I've done, the Atlantic 10 always gets really good, and there's just certain schools in that conference that always get good with players leaving early off. But the other conferences they change. Like it's I don't say it's random, but it changes every time you play it. Some stay mediocre, some rise to the level of a power conference. And you even have a couple schools from mid-majors and majors that seriously get so good that they would be considered blue bloods. If not for me, I usually end up preventing them from winning national championships or making it to the Final Four. But in a career mode without me in it, a lot of mid-majors and majors would actually be just as good as Kentucky's and Duke's and UCLA's and North Carolina's. But that's, again, only when you turn players leaving early off. So one of the things I really like to do with the preseason kickoff is play both sides. Sometimes I just play with the second string the whole game, just because usually I know what my starting lineup is capable of. I'm used to playing with them. I usually like to put all of the freshmen, sophomores, the new recruits on the second squad, and play with them, see what they got going against the best of what I got, which is our starting lineup. It kind of tells me who's ready, who needs to be redshirted, and you know who's gonna get playing time and who's not. You can see this it's pretty early, but the starting lineup is really good from Memphis, but the bench is also really good too. This is some really good players on their bench, and this is a really good squad. And if you play with them a specific way, and we'll get into that style of play later, but if you play with this team a certain way, man, they're really hard to beat, and they can score a lot of points. And I guess that's a perfect segue into I always play on MOP, which is the highest. This is the hardest level on 2K8, and it can be pretty forgiving because I mean the computer is like sometimes there's algorithm rolls where they just don't miss shots. Like I don't know what type of crystal ball 2K was looking in when they made this game, but the 3-point shooting on this game is just like it is right now. Like everybody thinks they're a 3-point shooter, so everybody can shoot threes, but the only difference is everybody can shoot threes in 2007, especially when the algorithm is running like centers, power forwards, whether their 3-point rating is high or not. Like it gets to a certain point in the game, the algorithm will start kicking in, and then the computer will just start raining down threes all over your head from everywhere on the court, and you really literally be thinking like, man, how the heck did 2K know that the 3-point shot would become so popular? They also knew that stretch bigs would be really popular too, because there's a lot of them in this game, and it's interesting too because the really good ones don't start to roll in the recruiting until around the same time that it happened in real life. Like around the time when stretch 4s and stretch 5 was the thing in the traditional back to the basket, which Greg Oden is on the cover of this. So that was like still a thing back then. Like it almost like Greg Oden was the end, or 2K was trying to like foreshadow that by putting him on the cover. But the traditional back to the basket center kind of starts to fall away in this game in around the same years that it did in real life. And it's like, how the heck did 2K know to create recruits and roll them in the exact years that started to get popular? It's kind of eerie actually. I'm like, how? Because I've been playing this game for a long time. Like I said, I started recruiting, and I'm like, man, is that man, this 7-footer can dribble, and this 7-footer can shoot threes. Like, what? How did they know that would become a thing? And like the beginning of the dynasties, 2007 and 2008, all of those years, like, it's literally just a lot of that to the basket, traditional power centers and power forwards. And the ones that can take you off the dribble and shoot threes are like scarce. Like they're the ones that you battle over other programs for. And then you start to get closer into the teens, 2013, 14, 15, 16, like when stretch 4s and stretch 5 started to become popular, and you started to notice that a lot of the centers and power forwards started to have that ability to shoot and stretch the floor and take you off the dribble. And you're just like, man, like they really knew that was the direction that not just college basketball, but basketball was going in general. But, I mean, WNBA, women's college basketball, NBA, men's college basketball. And I guess the conclusion I came to is they probably got it from Europe. Like that was like around the time where European basketball was starting to really infiltrate American basketball. And of course, you know, in European basketball, a basketball player is a basketball player. There is no such thing as a back to the basket power center You're either a basketball player or you're not. And if you're a basketball player, you can dribble, you can pass, you can shoot. You can do all those things. Even as a guard can post up. A guard has post moves. Like, and obviously they're not gonna post up a 6'10" player and have much success with that, but they can post up other guards. And yeah, so I think that's what they noticed, that European style was starting to kind of infiltrate the college game and the NBA. And so I guess they kind of knew like how many years it would take before stretch fours and stretch fives became a thing. Yeah, that's just my hypothesis. And also, as you can see, I really like to play on the 2K camera. The broadcast camera is good for certain modes. It is not good for the modes when you're playing with the team. It's just not easy to see the angles on the court to the rim. It makes running plays really hard. Like, yeah, you got to be able to see like the court a certain way when you're controlling the team in order to like run plays effectively. Broadcast mode doesn't do that, so I don't play on that mode. I've always used the 2K camera. Also, over the course of the season, I definitely will be uploading the full games, not games cutting through. So it'll be up to the person watching it to just skip through if they don't want to watch the whole game. But I'm not gonna cut out parts of the game. I'm just gonna upload the whole game, and then just let people choose if they want to watch the whole thing or not. So yeah, when your roster is split like that, you don't have very many bench players on either side. So you pretty much you usually only got like 1, maybe 2 or 3 people on your bench, depending on how full your roster is. So what I mean, it's just a preseason game. I actually probably should have turned the minutes down. They really don't play this game that long. I didn't think about that, but it's fine. I enjoy this. Is like one of my favorite games of the season, every season. Especially when it's like a completely new roster that I'm not familiar with. Then this gets really dope because it's kind of like a roster introduction for me too. So yeah, the post players on this team: Dorsey, Taggart, Niles. You got Bailey, Dozier. Dorsey's really dope. Though he tends to take possessions off on the defensive end. Dude, 2K is a really good basketball simulator. I mean, like that's almost the type of area too, how well this simulates basketball. And you could kind of tell, like 2K could have easily just slapped college hoops, kind of like cover on an NBA 2K game and called it a day. But then to college 2K, it does a really good job of capturing that college atmosphere and everything that makes college basketball so much different from the NBA. Another reason why I really like it, because I'm a huge fan of college basketball. I mean, the NBA is alright, but I really like college basketball. It's just different. It has a different feel to it. It entertains differently. It just feels like different basketball. And even like the coaching battles, the chess matches that you see in women's and men's college basketball is just outstanding. But yeah, Dorsey plays a lot like he does. Oh, I mean, all of the players do, really. Yeah. Taggart is gonna be really good. I'm liking him. I want to see if I can learn how to play with him as the season progresses. Chris Douglas Roberts is my shooting guard / small forward, though he can play a lot of other positions. Really skilled. He also plays a lot like he did in that season and just in college basketball in general. It's gonna be really dope to see him stay instead of, because he left too after this season. So it's gonna be really dope to like build a team around Derrick Rose and watch Derrick Rose mature and maturate through freshman and senior year, and watch him become MVP Derrick Rose in college. That's gonna be fun to play with. You notice, like, in real life, Derrick Rose that season, freshman year, man, he was passive. And that's saying a lot because he was really good, but he was not the same as he was when he went to NBA. He's a lot more aggressive when he got to the NBA. Like, he's a little passive in college, and it kind of rolls like that in this too. Like, as a freshman, he'll dunk on somebody, but not as near as much as like as a senior would. And that's kind of speculation because I've never played a 4-year career with Memphis, but I'm just saying this from playing up with other teams. Like, freshmen tend to be a little bit more passive. Like, by the time they get to their senior years, they're a lot more aggressive, which, I mean, it makes sense. They have a lot more confidence. So I'm just interested to see. Like, I've never seen a senior Derrick Rose in this game. I've never seen what that looks like. Playing wise, coaching against, I've seen it. But it's been so long. Like, I've been doing career mode for so long that I'm so far removed from the 2007-2008 season. And then I had other rosters. Like, I started uploading other rosters. Like, I got the roster with Jim Calipari, Kentucky, and Anthony Davis team, and that was usually the roster I started loading or uploading when I played a new dynasty. So I think maybe only once or twice did I ever play one where Derrick Rose went from freshman to senior. And yeah, I remember he would definitely be a lot more passive his freshman year and get a lot more aggressive towards his senior year. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna try to do it earlier though. I'm gonna try to make him a lot more aggressive before his senior season. But I'm also gonna try to develop him as a point guard a little bit more too. Like, more pass first and shoot, and then try to find a balance as he goes through each year. I think the first year we're gonna focus on making him a floor general. So a lot of assists, especially since he has so much talent around him. And the play style, the John Calipari play style fits Derrick Rose to a T. Like, it's perfect. Like, even that too, like, there's so many different ways to play in 2K8. Like, so many different styles of play. Like, the playbook isn't extensive, but it really doesn't need to be, because like every set has so many options that then you start to see that it actually is extensive. Like, it looks small, but then once you realize how sets and how you run offense in college basketball is different than the NBA, you start to see that it really is an exorbitant amount of plays. Because I have 5 or 6 plays that I found, and it took a while to find, but I found and I roll with, and I don't even change. I rarely ever change them or change them at all. I just roll with those, and it's just so many options that you don't need to constantly change your playbook. You just need to find, especially in career mode, you need to find a style of play, find sets that fit that style of play, and then find the options within the sets that fit that style of play. And once you do that, you have a pretty consistent offense. And then from there, you could just, that's how you recruit. You recruit your players to fit your play style. And that way you ain't got to change your playbook every season because your players don't fit. You just do it the other way around. Recruit players that fit your style. And then you could just keep your same plays. And yeah, the computer does get used to you running a set if you continuously do it. That's why you gotta have multiple sets. That's why I said about 5 or 6. But if you go through a season and you just running the same set over and over again, the computer will start to notice it, and they'll get harder. Like they'll start denying a lot of your options. You'll especially see it if you come up against a good coach. Like if you go against Coach K, John Calipari, if you're playing against them, like any of the good coaches from that time, that matter time, Coach Izzo, Roy Williams at UNC, like a lot of the 98, 99 overall coaches, like yeah, you run the same set all season and then you play them, they will shut your offense down like quickly. And that's another thing I really like about college 2K. Like when they were writing that, they took that into account. So you can't just keep calling the same set over and over again and think you're gonna have success against every team you play. Like some teams you just out talent. It's like it don't matter. Like they try to shut it down, but they just don't have the talent to do it. But once you start getting up against those teams that do have the talent on your level and they have a really good coach, like they'll shut your offense down real quick. So you gotta keep it versatile. Make sure you know all of the options within your offense, and then you gotta create your own options too. And there's I don't know if you noticed while I'm playing, but I noticed while watching other 2K series on YouTube that a lot of people don't know about the off-ball controller setup. That's like seems to be like I mean 2K doesn't tell you about it either. Like it seems to be like a hidden feature, but it completely changes how you run your offense once you can tell a guard to come set a pick and roll as opposed to just calling quick pick and roll and it picking the best possible player to do it. So when you do quick pick and roll, it just picks the best big between your center and your power forward that's good at screening to come roll your pick and roll. As you can see right now, I'm calling quick pick and roll, and I think that's Bailey that keeps coming in set it. But if you use off-ball control, you can pick who you want to come set the pick. You can also pick any player that you want to run a screen. You can pick any player you want to go set or post up. You can pick any player you want to come off a screen for a shot. And that the off-ball controls changes College 2K8 a lot. Like I literally played this game for years and didn't even know you can change your controller to that setup. Like I saw it in the book, like you could do this and that, but I'm like, wait, when I press RB it doesn't do anything. And it took me a long time to like, well, maybe I need to go to the controller setup, and I finally did that, and I'm like, off-ball control, is that what? And I changed it to that setup, and then I go in and I press it, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I had been changing players around to positions. Like I would move my center to the power forward spot. I would take my center out of the game so that I can roll and pick and roll with a specific person. I would move guards to a power forward spot so that I could run guard to guard pick and roll. Like I was doing all type of stuff. And here it is already in the game, off ball control. You could literally run pick and roll with anybody on the court without changing your players' positions all around, which completely changed the way I run my offense. Like when you're running through a set and you're running through all your options, and then you just all of a sudden be like, oh man, look at all that space behind there, I'm gonna run a pick and roll. And you ain't gotta wait for the freaking center to come all the way from the other side of the court, and by the time they get there, that space is gone. Like, nope, you can run the pick and roll with the guard that's standing right in front of you, and that's an easy basket. Like, and that's what off-ball control does. Like, it changes the whole dynamic of your offense. And I don't see anybody using that on the 2K series that they're putting on the internet. So I really think it's the same thing that happened to me. Like, nobody knows about it. They don't even know about that controller setup. That's a really prominent thing in the NBA 2K series, is being able to set picks. Like, you can't set the direction that they set the pick like in NBA. I don't know when they added that feature, but 2K8 created in 2007 definitely had the option for you to pick who you want to run the pick and roll with, which makes a dynamic part of my offense, which is guard to guard pick and roll. That's really hard to stop. Guard, especially when you have a guard that can pass really well, a floor general, and you have a really big guard. In case in point, Derrick Rose and Chris Douglas-Roberts. Like, Derrick Rose and Chris Douglas-Roberts pick and roll is like one of the hardest things to stop. So I'm gonna run out a lot in my sets, and it's cool because what makes it dynamic is you can call any set, run through your options, and move the defense around, and then call a pick and roll for Chris Douglas-Roberts. It completely throws them off when the guard comes running across the court to set the screen. But what you can also do with that is I can tell Chris Douglas-Roberts, no matter where he is on the court, to come get the basketball. Like, he doesn't have to come set the pick. He can just come run towards me, and then I can give him the ball. That changes the dynamic of your offense as well. So we'll dive real deep into all of those things as the season progresses, and you'll get to see it. Like, why my offense is so hard to stop and how I run it. And as we go through the course of the career mode, and I start to get my recruits in there, or I guess I can say John Colley probably recorded. He's the coach, but obviously I'm the one doing all of this stuff. I'm gonna try to closely emulate his style though. Like, this is his team, the way he plays, but quite honestly, his style, what he was trying to develop, is kind of how I play this game anyway, so it kind of fits. But as we start to get the type of recruits that I play with in there that fit this Memphis style of play, you're really starting to see how the off-ball control like changes that the dynamics of the offense. And it's actually really cool to see. That's one of my favorite things about College 2K8 is the recruiting and the recruiting cycles. Like how your players change every 4 seasons, the dynamic of putting different players out there together, how they play together, learning how to play with them, because when they're freshmen, you have no idea how to play with them. They are not as confident as juniors and seniors, so they're not playing to their full potential. But then every once in a while, you do roll that freshman that comes in that's like lights out better than anybody on your team, whether they're sophomore, junior, or senior. And that's really cool, a really cool aspect too. And they're not always the #1 overall high school All-American either. Like, sometimes you can get a 3-star or a 4-star that comes in and they're like 78 or 80 overall, but they're better than a 95 overall player you have on your team. And it's not that the 95 overall player is bad, it's just that their potential is different. So that 80 overall player that's just as good as a 98 overall player is going to be different when he's 98 overall than that 98 overall player. Like, they even put that in here, like that dynamic. So every overall is not equal in this game. Like, you can have 2 80 overall players, and because they're both 80 overall, you think, well, they're both equally good. Like, nah, that's not always the case. Like, one could be way better than the other, even though they're the same overall. But that's just another dynamic that rolls. And I'm not sure, I haven't played NBA 2K all that extensively, so I'm not sure if that same dynamic exists in their NBA 2K games. But I'm assuming it does since they put it in this. I don't imagine why they wouldn't do it in NBA 2K2. Like, I'm sure there are 78 overall players in NBA 2K that are better than some 85 or 90 overall players if you know how to play with them. So that's another caveat. You got to know how to play with them too. You can't just be dribbling around taking shots and then be like, oh, they suck. Like, no. Every player has a way that they like to play. Like the tendencies and the ratings, the individual stat ratings, not just the overall ratings, play a huge part in how a recruit or a player plays. And the more you stick closely to those tendencies, but then add stuff to their game and the tendency meter will change, the better it is. But if they come in, you recruit them, and then you try to play with them a whole nother way that they're not used to playing, then you probably won't have much success with them. Like, you got to kind of pay attention to why you recruited them, what they were good at, and roll that first, get them comfortable, and then you start trying to add other aspects to their game, and their potential determines on how fast that happens. So as you can see, I've for the second half I've switched to the start lineup, and the CPU is now controlling the second string. Get used to these the starters, because I haven't played with Memphis at all. So I think I attempted to play with them one time, but I think I only played a couple games before because obviously in order to play with Memphis you have to do an open legacy, and I was like on the fence about closed at that point, so I rolled the open, did all of the setup, played like 2 games in the season, and it was like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna go create my own coach. Like, I don't want to play with John Calipari's cool, but kind of want to make my own coach and see what kind of coaching what career I will. And it was a wrap from there. Like that. When I did that's what changed 2K for me. Like, closed career is like the dopest. Is a struggle bus the first 5 or 6 seasons until you get that major, or sometimes depending on how good you do at the first school, you can get offered a job at a power conference right off the bat. That's dope too. That's a different experience. Doesn't always happen, but when it does, it's dope. But yeah, progressing through a closed career where you get points for certain things you do, and it keeps track of all those points in the system, and you can get fired if you're not doing well. This is just a really fun dynamic. And then once you finally make it to that program that you want to be at, and you start building it recruiting wise and just coach style wise and success wise, as far as winning regular season titles and conference tournament titles and making it to the NCAA and advancing, and then eventually winning national championships, like it never gets old. Like, no matter how many times, or at least for me, how many times I do it, it's still fun. I think once because I'm a basketball fan, so it's basketball. Like, basketball never changes; it's always the same. But it just adds that dynamic, building a program up from scratch and recruiting the players you want to recruit, and putting the team out on the court that you want to put out there, and playing the players together that you want to play, and subbing the way you want to sub. And you get to do all of that in college 2K8, and it's fun. It's fun to roll every single time. And just finding, every time I think I found that one recruit, or every time I think I found that one team, that it doesn't get any better than this, I ain't gonna ever top this, and I'll go and I do it and top it again. Like, oh man, like, who's this guy? Like, it's amazing. Like, I don't know how Visual Concepts and 2K came up with the recruiting system in there, like how it runs. Like, I don't know if it's like randomly generated, or did they like put every recruit in the game, or I don't know how they did it. But I've rarely ever, you get the same type of recruit, but I've never gotten the same recruit twice. Like, there's just one recruit I got named Dana Rhodes in a UConn career mode I was doing, and I've been trying to find him, thinking that maybe they put him in there and the name just changes, like the silhouette is the same, the name just changes, but I have not been able to find that guy again. And he is just one of the dopest 7-footers that I've ever, like, he didn't start off as a 7-footer, he actually started off at like 6'9", and he was a small forward that I ended up moving to center because he was just so strong. Like, man, it's a small forward at 6'9", he's just banging on people. Like, his post-up game was on another level. But then, because he was a small forward, he could dribble. Like, he could take you off the dribble. So I was taking people off the dribble from the perimeter, getting to my post-up spots, and then dominating with all his post-up moves. And his dunk standing was high, his dunk was high, his layup was high, his close was high, and all of that stuff got better because his potential was high. But his abilities, like defense and offense, and his height, his size and athleticism, I've had tons of more 7-footers that can dribble and do all of that stuff, but I just haven't had a player like Dana Rhodes since. So I don't know how 2K did the recruiting in there, but it's actually really dope. Like, you find recruits in certain career modes that you just don't never find again. So he's like, of the 2K8 verse, I would consider him a generational player because I haven't been able to get him again. And there's tons of recruits that I have been able to find that seem like they were just the same recruit that I had with a different name. Like, that does happen too. Like, oh yeah, I think I've had this person before. He definitely looks like a recruit I've had. The name just changed. But there's also those recruits that name wise and silhouette wise that just don't roll very often, or maybe they don't roll again. Maybe they just once, you only get them once, or maybe there's just so many recruits that I miss them. But I don't even think Dana Rhodes was a 5-star recruit either. I think he was a 4-star, 6'9", small forward. That was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. I think he was the Mr. Basketball of his state though, and so yeah, like, I've seen 2-stars that were Mr. Basketballs of their state. So just depending on how many recruits are coming out of a state, you can get recruits as low as 2-stars that are Mr. Basketballs, and they can be pretty good, but typically not. It's not really a good what to call it, a comparison when there's only like 3 recruits in the state and all 3 of them are 2-stars, so one of them has to be the best 2-star. But so Mr. Basketball isn't always a good measure of if a player is good or not. Either is All-American for that matter, because I've gotten All-Americans that rode the bench pretty much their whole careers. They got in here, I tried to play with them, learn how to play with them, and it just didn't work out. So I've definitely had 5-star recruits, high school All-Americans that just didn't fit my style, and I thought they would, or I just couldn't learn. I didn't learn how to play with them the whole time they were there. I've had 3-stars that come in and are really whack their first 3 seasons, but then they're seniors. By the time they're seniors, they're like playing like the best college basketball player ever, because I've learned how to play with them and I've learned their specific tendencies and style. So it just varies. It's like so many different dynamics that happen when you play this game, and this is what makes it so dope. As you can see, my offense is running completely differently now that I'm playing with the starters. Obviously, the second string can't handle the way I'm running offense because the computer doesn't run offense like this. Like, every once in a while, you'll get a computer that runs the sets in the game really good, and they're hard to stop. But dynamic offenses, the CPU really doesn't have that. Like, the 98 overall coaches can get their teams to execute and run sets really well to a level where it's just unstoppable. But other than that, you won't really see the CPU creating their own specific style or offense or whatever. Not like you can do. And that's why I said, if you like find a style and then you add your own particular flavor or options to that style, then it becomes really, really hard for the CPU to stop you from scoring a basketball. So another thing you could do with sets is say like you want your center to rim run. If you call a specific set, like I just called low 2, it didn't work out that time, but you saw Dorsey dove to the rim. It's because on low 2, that's the position he goes to. So if you call it early, after you've rebounded the basketball and you're on a break, if you call it early enough, then the center runs straight to the rim. And that's how you can get a rim dive or a rim run. Set vice versa with any player, like any set you call. Like if you want a guard to rim run, you gotta call a set where the guard's first position is to go close to the basket. And so he doesn't have to go all the way under the basket. He has to just be running towards the basket, and then you can lead him. You can lead him with your pass. So I do that a lot. As I'm coming up the court, I call a set early to get my players to run up the court in certain lanes. And in basketball, they call that filling the lanes. So you want certain players to fill the lanes when you're on a break. And it causes the defense to have to make decisions about what they want to protect, the paint or the three-point line or the mid-range. This team is most definitely 1000% fast break team. So we're going to run on people a lot. Our tempo is going to be up style a lot, which is what John Calipari was trying to create that season anyway. We'll talk more about that later too, because that was actually a really unique season for John Calipari in his coaching career.
So this team is offensively good, but they're also defensively good because of how long they are and athletic. So they're really disruptive in the passing lanes. We're going to run a couple of different type of presses. I really like the 2-2-1, but we're going to do a lot of full court press as well. But I'm also, like in the beginning of the season, I'm not going to press as much because I want to try to get our half-court defense to be really good, just in case we go up against some of these teams from this year that have really good point guards and the press just isn't working. We're going to have to rely on our half-court defense a lot, and if we're just pressing the whole season and not getting our half-court defense really good, and that's going to be an issue come tournament time if we face one of those teams. Yeah, that's the thing in career mode too. Like if you're a pressing team that's not really good at half court, and you don't actually like let your team play in the half court because you're causing so many turnovers with your press, and they don't really get to defend in the half court, then they won't be good at half court defense or as good at half court defense by the time the end of the season rolls around. Like anything you want your team or individual players to be good at, they have to kind of do for the entire season. Like they have to get used to it. Like that 2K recorder, VRE recorder thing that like records your tendencies, and how the tendency thing works is actually legit. Like it works in this game. So if you're a pressing team and you press all the time and you don't really get to play half court because you're causing turnovers, that can come back to bite you if you run up against a team that's really good at breaking the press, and then your team's not used to playing half court. If that team that's good at breaking the press is also good at executing offense in a half court, then you're really in trouble. That's happened to me quite a few times with teams. That's how I learned to not rely heavily on the press all season long. Like turn it off, cut it down, cut it up. Like let the team learn how to play half court and guard in the half court, and learn what your because you can't control all 5 players at the same time. You can only control one at a time. So you got to kind of see what your other players are going to do or how they're going to react when the CPU is running or executing their sets. Like what choices are they going to make? How they going to fill a lane? Like how they going to switch when they get screened? Like all of those things you learn by actually playing half court defense. But if you don't play it, you don't learn any of those things. So then you get up against a team later in the season and you find out that your team is not good at switching when they need to, or fighting over screens, or they go under a screen when they need to go over it. Like all those little things come into play in this game. And that's what I mean by how they captured like the essence of basketball, and then also the essence of college basketball with the coding and the art. You can really tell like the team that made college 2K8 were hands down 100% fans of college basketball, because they took the time to like put all of these things in it. Like there ain't a lot of bells and whistles about this game, and like the presentation is not as good as like NCAA basketball 10 was. Like the presentation in NCAA basketball 10 is dope. Like it really is. I always say if college hoops 2K8 had that presentation as well, like man, it would be lights out. And I already think it's lights out, the best college basketball or basketball game ever made. But if it had that level of presentation that NCAA had, it would be really dope. But NCAA 10 has that presentation, but none of the gameplay. So it's not fun. Like the presentation is off the scale, but the gameplay and the aesthetics is not at all. So that's why I stuck with 2K8. I tried 10 and I really liked the presentation in it. I thought it was dope. I was like, man, this is what college 2K8 is missing. But at the same time, so 10 came out in 2009. So if 2K had made another college basketball game after 2K8, I'm pretty sure they would have had that level of presentation in their games, if not more too. Like they got State Farm in this game like State Farm wasn't even really a thing yet back then. State Farm wasn't even rolling commercials to the level they are today with all of the athletes and stuff in 2007, if I recall. I could be wrong. but I don't think it was as prominent as it is now. But I feel like State Farm got its sports start with 2K. Yeah, so this game's coming to an end. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to me. I kind of used this game to go over some things about this season and explain why I really like 2K. Yeah, see you in the next vid. Oh man, Dorsey had I'm still here. Dorsey had a monster game. I didn't even notice. 35-10, yeah. That's what he's capable of quite easily. Yeah, I know that was against the second string though. But that 18-9-4 with Derek, that's kind of what I'm aiming for all season. I really don't care about Derek scoring points a lot. Some games he might take over, but for the most part, I'm really focused on his defense and his assists, and maybe a little rebounding here and there, but I don't really think I'm gonna need him to rebound it with the bigs we got. This guy right here though, I'm excited about. If I could learn how to play with him, I think Taggart is gonna be huge this season. Like he's gonna be Taggart's gonna be the difference between us going undefeated and winning a national title and Georgia's winning one. I mean, the goal is definitely to win the national title. So yeah, see you guys in the next vid. For real this time.